To the Point with Michael Williams.
Good morning. My guest today, Marc Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League. And we thank you for taking time to join us.
Hey, thanks. I'm glad to be with you, and great to be in South Florida.
Briefly, what brings you here?
I am here to be a part of the Urban League of Palm Beach County's gala, which took place Friday.
Yeah. And Patrick Franklin, I've had him on so many times, I can't even count.
My good friend, colleague, and ally, Patrick Franklin, who leads
Urban League of Palm
Beach County. People should know one of the best Urban League affiliates in the country. Patrick is, he's masterful in his ability to make things happen. He's a civil rights leader, but he's an entrepreneur at heart.
Been a voice in this community and a guest many, many times, a familiar face, and of course, Mayor of New Orleans from 1994 to 2002, my mom's hometown. So,
hey, beautiful. So you know gumbo.
Yes, we do.
You know red beans.
Yes, we do.
You know, you eat them raw oysters.
Oh yeah. Let's jump off 2024 elections. Talk about the national effort in terms of get out the vote.
So, in this environment, we all have to set that what is fundamental to us as Americans is American democracy. And as Americans, there's only one election we all participate in on a, quote, equal basis, and that is the election of the President of the United States. And so we believe strongly at the National Urban League that the right to vote, participation in democracy, is not only a right, but it is a fundamental responsibility. And we are absolutely abhorred by any effort to, quote, make it more difficult for people to vote. We should make it easy for people to vote. Any effort to, if you will, erode confidence in the infrastructure of elections without any merit. And so in this year, I know that the mood of the country sometimes is challenged. We've come through COVID, we've come through a whole host of challenges, but we must vote. And the Urban League in 92 communities across the nation, we're gonna be doing everything: texting, knocking on doors, working to register, also educate people about their choices, and saying to people, have a plan to vote.
Talk about the gulf of opinion in this country. You have, on the one hand, in a state like Florida, Republicans who've pushed hard over the years for absentee voting, then those who criticize it, even though it's helped Republicans here. You have new restrictions on how many days in voting around the country, on early voting. Republicans will argue on ballot box security, debates about that, ballot box drop-off. Republicans argue it's all to make sure that we're all on equal footing, and to say otherwise is in itself undemocratic. You see the schism there. So
Republicans,
how do you speak to that?
Were the inventors of early voting. They were proponents, in many instances, of vote by mail. Where there's no evidence of fraud and problems, and you raise it, it's irresponsible to erode confidence in a system where hardworking elections officials, clerks of courts, precinct captains, and others work so hard to make our elections fair and indeed free. And we shouldn't undermine confidence in it for partisan purposes or for purposes as to who, quote, wins or loses. If there's evidence, show it, and so be it. So I think vote by mail has proven to be secure and safe. Early voting for working men and women, moms with children, senior citizens, those that may have mobility issues, simply makes the ballot more accessible, eliminates long lines, long trips, and inconvenience. We've become a nation of over 300 million people, and some 160 people voted plus in the last presidential election. Just think about this from a common sense point of view. Trying to get 160 million people to vote on one day. Expanding access is safe, can be safe, and I don't think we should erode confidence in it for no reason other than we think it helps someone who may not vote our way to vote.
And you all certainly, as you said in your opening remarks, will be out there across communities around this country
working
to make
hard
sure that happens.
With many, many.
Talk about a Gallup poll briefly. I have two more questions for you in our relatively brief time, and I appreciate you taking time. A Gallup poll earlier in the year, it mirrors other things we're hearing. Democrats losing ground with Black and Hispanic adults. Speak to that.
I believe it's a positive thing if Black and Hispanic voters become competitive, and both parties have to truly appeal to Black and Hispanic voters, which has historically not really been the case. Having said that, I think on Election Day, I think it will be clear that once people hear the records and the visions of both of these candidates, that African American and Latino voters are going to mostly, I think, come home to the Democratic Party. I think in order to appeal, you've got to have something that is meaningful and substantive. And what concerns me is the Trump administration gave us 3 Supreme Court justices that took away a woman's right to choose, eroded, if you will, affirmative action, and certainly had one of the least diverse administrations in modern times. I'm saying to people, check the record, not the hype. Who you vote for is not American Idol. It's not about who entertains you, who makes grandiose promises. Check the record and then make an intelligent decision.
In our remaining couple of minutes, I say to many guests, and you certainly with your background, former mayor of New Orleans, many, many years now leading the Urban League at a national level, the perspective on where we are as a country right now. Everywhere you go, people at once lament the ugliness, the separation, the division. Where are we? What is your broader message about your concerns and how, if at all, we can get beyond that?
We must, for the future of this country, recognize that we can have differences of opinion, differences of ideology, but that American democracy requires civil and sophisticated discourse. Number 2, as a nation that is becoming more varied and more diverse every single day, we have to recognize that to build an American future, we've got to come together on common values. So some common values to me are, if you will, the right to vote, the right to human dignity, a sense of fairness and justice in our institutions, be they public or private, and the opportunity for everyone, regardless of zip code, creed, color, religion, circumstances of birth, have a real opportunity to participate in and enjoy the American dream. We can build a multiracial, multicultural nation if we embrace some fundamental values. And those values are not partisan. Those values have nothing to do with political party. They have to do with what I think the time-honored values of this country as improved and perfected over time by generations of Americans. We're in a tough spot, no doubt, but in a tough spot is when leaders, true leaders, real leaders, should step up. We are clear on where we stand on issues, but we, in my work, have no permanent friends, no permanent enemies, just permanent interests.
Marc Morial, president of the National Urban League, former mayor of New Orleans. I think on that eloquent note, we can't top that. We appreciate you offering us that perspective, important. And I also know you are on a whirlwind tour of South Florida. I appreciate you taking time to stop by for a few minutes.
And congratulations on your career.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for your time, sir. The Trump classified documents case indefinitely postponed. New attention on the federal judge handling the case next.